So as you can see, like these colors are, they're something else. Hi, it's Sonia here with The Pretty Stitch. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, I'm so happy to have you here. So usually I post videos about knitting and crocheting, and I have tutorials, I have stitch patterns, I talk about yarn, and today we are going to be doing what I like to call is a crochet chat. So I've got my crochet hook, I'm using my H hook or 5mm hook, and I have a rubber band on the end, and the reason I have a rubber band on the end is I do use this for Tunisian crochet as well, so that my loops don't fall off my hook, and I just left it on here. And I have my crochet project that I had been working on in some previous crochet chats, and this is a sweater prototype that I'm working on, and I kind of took a break on it. Like, this is the back part and it should be almost done, but I was working on some other things and that's what happens. And this is a prototype, so as you can see, like these colors are, they're something else. But I am just working on this prototype because I do have a color scheme in mind and I don't want to just waste the yarn. It's going to be a colorful, like a scrap project in a way. I mean, you could certainly make it in all one color if that was what you would choose, but I'm kind of viewing it as a scrap project. This sweater, as I said before, if you watch some other crochet chats where I talk about this project, that the inspiration came from AI of all things, which I don't really like AI, especially in crochet and knitting circles, because there is so much of it on social media, and it's really fooling people into thinking that it's actual crochet or knitting projects. But this was one, I could tell immediately that was AI, but the design was cute, like the concept was really cute. And so I took some inspiration from that and thought, let's see what we can come up with, so I'm kind of using that AI picture as an inspiration for the sweater. So we'll see if it works out. I don't know if it will or not. I certainly hope it does. And if it does, then I will put it on the channel here. But yeah, I thought I'd just come on here and just chat, talk about life, whatever. I will have to go in a bit. In my other crochet chats, it's always about track, and we are in the thick of track and field season, so I will have to go and pick up my daughter from track practice. She does have her license now. That's what's new in our household, but she does not have a vehicle yet. We are working on that. She actually will be getting her brother's vehicle, which is technically it's mine. It was her dad's car, and he died 3 years ago, and the car is now my car. So my son has been using it, but he has been saving up for his own vehicle, which he is getting really close. He actually does have a down payment for the vehicle, but he's just looking for the right one. And he has a specific vehicle in mind. He's really particular, and I'm sort of like, well, beggars can't be choosers, but he's still always been the type of person that he wants what he wants, and like he just won't deviate from that. Like, he sets his mind on something, and it can be a really good quality, like with school, whatever. Like, if he really wants a good grade or whatever like that, he will just go after it. And that's kind of what's going on with this vehicle situation. He wants a truck. He wants a specific kind of truck. And it's not like it's some exotic like truck or anything, but it is a little bit more on the expensive side compared to some other trucks out there. He is definitely looking for a used vehicle, which, because a new truck would be just... Even a used vehicle, I mean, goodness gracious, like a used vehicle I've seen him for 100,000 miles, the type of truck he wants, for $30,000. Like, what? That's crazy. But this is the world we're living in right now. And, but yeah, he wants a specific kind. So he has been saving and working, and obviously he will need to get some kind of a loan. And I know I could co-sign a loan for him, but I'm just, not doing it. I don't want to put myself in that situation in case, you know, there would be a default situation. Don't really foresee that happening with him. Like, he's a pretty responsible kid as far as that stuff goes. He's pretty good with his money, but you just never know. And, you know, things are already tough for me with my husband dying, and, you know, financially, it's, you know, I'm making it work. Like, I'm doing okay, but I don't need a loan, you know, on top of everything else. So as you can see, this was a I call it recycling. So this was another prototype, a knitted sweater. I kind of liked it, but this yarn, I do like this yarn, but it's one of those multicolored yarns, and the colorways are long, but they're kind of random. I don't know, like, some of them go together really nicely and some of them don't. So I was making this knitted sweater, and it was starting out pretty, and then the colorway I felt like went completely sideways and was just weird. And I don't mind wearing colorful things. Like, today I'm like extremely boring, but, you know, I like a good brightly colored, funky looking sweater, whatever. But this was a little bit too much. I do like, even though if it's funky, a funky color, a fun color, I don't mind that, but I do like symmetry with things. So, like, the sleeves were a different color than the main part of the sweater, and so it was just too much going on, and so I was like, you know, this isn't working out. So we're taking it apart, and I'm just using this yarn as this prototype, which then again, I will take this one apart once I'm done with it and reuse the yarn for something else. So I call it my recycling of yarn, and this yarn is too, it's not like super special yarn. So I do make a lot of patterns, and sometimes they don't always go really great right off the bat. So I have learned through the years to, you know, if I have something in mind, to, you know, use more some inexpensive yarn to kind of play around with the pattern until I like it. And then if everything is going really well, then bust out the nice yarn and then just make the pattern. So that's just something that I have learned throughout the years, because I have made some things where I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna work out great. You know, it's gonna go perfectly smooth, and then the pattern, it's like a complete mess. And then I've kind of like, not that you've ruined yarn, but you know, if you have to cut it and stuff, then you have like all these different lengths, and that gets annoying. So I want to make sure that this prototype is right before I do it. So yeah, I really did like this sweater. It was actually a pattern that I was working off of YouTube, because I am trying to get my knitting skills better. I can knit okay, but I'm not like super great. I'm not terrible, but I'm just like okay. I don't feel as confident with my knitting as I do with my crochet. But I wanted to kind of branch out and make a sweater, and so I really did like the pattern, but the yarn choice, and I have talked about this in other videos that I've made, like, yarn choice can really make or break your project. You know, it can really, you know, your project could either be wonderful because you chose well with your yarn, or it could just be a hot mess because you chose poorly. It reminds me of that movie, what was it, Indiana Jones, what was it, the third one, with the Holy Grail, what was that one called? Last Crusade. That's a great movie. And part of the movie, if you've seen it, you know, he says, he chose poorly, or he chose wisely, and that's a line in the movie, and that's what it reminds me of with yarn choice. So with this guy, I chose poorly. So I will probably attempt to make that pattern again and choose wisely with my yarn choice, so that I like the finished product, because I was like, it started out so well. Like, I really like, it's top down, so I was making it top down, and I'm like, oh, these colors are pretty, I'm liking this. And then it was like, ooh, like, that's really not cute. So yeah, that's what happened with that. So yeah, we're just going to use it for this sweater prototype, and then hopefully I can find a project for that yarn, because I do like the colors. It was a case of, in the skein, and they were given to me as a gift, and they had tons of yardage too. It's just acrylic yarn. I think it's some kind of Lion Brand yarn. And in the skein, the colors are like, yes, these are my colors. I love these colors. But then when they're working up, I'm like, I still like the colors, but they're just, I don't know, the color runs are kind of weird with it. So yeah, I still am figuring out the right project for that yarn. But that's just how it can go sometimes, you know, the saga of crochet or knitting projects. You know, they just don't always, in your head you're thinking, yes, this is going to be so beautiful, and then in actual application you're like, ooh, you know, then it's like, what was I thinking? Then it becomes a fail. I do have some on my TikTok, and I think I posted someone here, some crochet fails, and they are meant to be funny. I know I posted one, and I did have like somber music or something on it, and again, it was just supposed to be something very like tongue-in-cheek, funny, and somebody was just like, oh, you're just so dramatic, it's, you know, not that serious. And I meant it to be not that serious, and maybe the comment was not meant to be serious, I don't know, but just from the tone of it, it just seemed like that they thought that I was being serious about this project that was a fail, and I completely wasn't. I was just being silly because, you know, sometimes you know, it depends how far you get in on a project, and then you're like, if it does fail, that can be a little bit heartbreaking at times, especially, you know, crocheting and knitting, it's not like a fast craft. I mean, some projects are fast, but if you have worked, I think that one in particular was a blanket, and in my mind I thought this is going to be great, and then I'm working on it, and I kept plowing through. I'm like, you know, it's going to get better, you know, it's just going to get better. And then I got about halfway through this blanket, I laid it down, and I'm looking at this thing like, I hate this project. I showed it to my daughter, and she was just like, Mom, what were you thinking? This is heinous. This is so ugly. And it was meant for, as I said in previous videos, I am in charge of a knitting crochet group at my church, and we had been doing, I like to do things that benefit the community. So we were making baby blankets for new babies. And this was supposed to be a baby blanket, and I'm just like, there's no way I can give this to a new mom, or it does, like, we don't give their blankets just to new moms, like just to new babies. So it could be a seasoned mom and their fourth kid or whatever. But I'm like, I can't give this horribly ugly blanket to this baby. Oh my goodness, like that's gonna reflect poorly on the group, and I don't know, I just was like, it had to be frogged, you know, taken apart. I just like, no. This thing, we gotta put it out of its misery. So that's what I did, and I have used some of that yarn, but I need to figure something out with the yarn because I had plenty of yardage of it. So yeah, that was, you know, like you said, you just can't, like I said, you just can't win them all, you know. And sometimes too, I've even worked on patterns and they've just gone completely sideways, and you know, so if you are a budding designer, I do highly recommend that you try to get your patterns tested, or I know people, especially in the knitting circles, they really highly recommend tech editing, and tech editing is really, really good. Like it really help your pattern to look to physically look really well, look professional, like how it's laid out and all that stuff. But I find with patterns that are just tech edited for crocheting, crocheting is a little different than knitting since I do both. Like I feel like knitting is very straightforward, so tech editing works really well if you choose not to test. But crocheting, like, it can be, as they say, a more fluid situation. So I have had patterns tech edited because I have worked with publications, and when you work with a publication, they have tech editors. They'll tech edit your pattern. Like most publications, they have like a format, and they want you to write your pattern according to that format. So they usually give you, you know, examples and how to write the pattern and all that. And then you send it off and it goes through the tech editor, and basically they're editing the pattern to make sure it fits to the magazine, the publication standards. But I have had some patterns tech edited where like a lot of publications, they, you know, they might have, even if it's not a printed publication, if it's online, I'm sure that there's space, like they don't want things too big or whatever. So I can be a little wordy, as you can probably guess with me talking right now. But when I've had my patterns tech edited, they have cut out some things because they were like, oh, she's over explaining, oh, it's too much. And they've actually cut out some important stuff. So when I have like longer patterns tech edited, and they get, because then what they do is first you write out the pattern. Like first you have to get it accepted. So you'll send in a proposal and they'll say, yes, we love this, we want to do it. Or they might say, yes, we love it, but could you do this instead of that, you know, which is fine. And then after that, they usually want you to make the item. I mean, some will make the item and you just write it out, but most they want you to make the item, write out the pattern, send in the item, send in the pattern, and then the tech editors, you know, get to work and start editing your pattern. And then after that, the tech editor will send it back to you and for you to go over it to double check. So I have had patterns that have been sent back to me and I'll be like, whoa, hold on, we are missing some key information. So then I have to put notes on there to tell the tech editor, like, you can't get rid of this because it's necessary, or the person making the item is going to get a little upset because it won't turn out. So yeah, I feel like with crocheting, I guess if you're a newer, I don't know why we're talking about designing, but if you're a newer designer and you're not quite sure how to format your pattern, how it should look, then tech editing can be really, really helpful. But since I've been doing this for years and I've worked with publications, I kind of have my own formula of how I like my patterns to look. So I just plug that in, and then I just prefer to get patterns tested. Now, I haven't gotten a lot of patterns tested recently because a lot of the patterns that I've made are, well, most of my ones lately, I haven't even written a pattern. It's a video pattern. But I feel like I should go and write some patterns because some people do prefer written patterns. And I haven't gotten those tested, which I really should, just to make sure. I mean, I know a lot of them are more simple. Like my last series of written patterns I did was my 12 days series, which I try to do every year at Christmas time. So it was just 12 days of quick gifts, and these patterns literally were just easy, short, quick things. So if there are mistakes, it's probably just typos. I mean, I always try to be really careful about that kind of stuff. I want my patterns to be as accurate as they can be. Like my whole goal, like my mission when I write a pattern is I want whoever decides to make it to be able to make it, to be successful. So I do tend to try to put notes on there or links to videos in case there's a technique that they might be a little unsure of. So that's like my whole goal with pattern writing. So yeah, but sometimes things get missed. They just do, and that's where testing can really be helpful. So I am going to have to go because I just looked at my phone at the time and I got to pick up my daughter because she has to go to work today. Poor kid, she has been running herself ragged. So I'll be glad when track season's over. It's not been a great season, and I feel like she's really bitten off more than she can chew this year between school, work. She's in the Honor Society. We just did this local program with the local businesses where she was in a mentorship program, which was amazing, but that was just another thing. And she volunteers, like I said. So she's just like really burning the candle at both ends. And so it'll be nice when track is over to take something off the table. But I hope you enjoyed this little chat. And if you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.